And welcome back, everyone, to season 2, episode 1 of the Late Breakers podcast. Oh, man, I know we've been away for a minute, but silly season is silly season, and we know this for a reason. If you haven't been keeping up in the latest news so far, don't worry, we're here to keep you up. And when I say we, I mean myself and my co-host Nash. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, but have a lot of mixed emotions, and we are definitely going to get into it today.
Definitely, it has to be a yo. It's a big drama that's happened, and we'll get to that drama. But first, let's talk about some actual breaking news that did happen recently. There's not much news on it other than Christian Horner is under investigation by Red Bull themselves for some misorderly conduct or sexual what? I'll read it properly for you just now.
Well, according to Red Bull, they have launched an investigation for inappropriate behavior, and those have been filed against Christian Horner. It seems like it's going to be an internal investigation, but they have contracted an outside party in order to take a external and I guess internal and independent look at this actual case. And for now, we don't have much information besides the fact that Christian's put out a statement, and he's stated very clearly that the process is already underway and it's being carried out by external supervisors. And then them as Red Bull take these sort of allegations very seriously. So for now, we don't have much information, but we do know that Red Bull is Christian Horner is being investigated. And from what we still know, he's going to still be team principal for the remainder of the season. Granted, the season hasn't started yet, but a lot of things are happening. Winter testing has been going on, and we do know that cars are going to be unveiled throughout the rest of this month of February.
It definitely will be. And I mean, look, I think we'll find out a bit later on in the season. Let's hope it's not another case like Helmut Marko's situationship in Red Bull as well. Like, oh, that would be a hot mess for Red Bull, especially right now at the start of the season. I think they'll be able to coast by this season if they lose Christian Horner. That's that bad case scenario. If they lose Christian, they'll be able to kind of coast by this season. But from next season, it's gonna be a whole different issue. But there's not much else for us to really say. It is just an investigation that's been noted. If in F1 terms, it's been noted by the stewards, aka
Mm-hmm.
external investigators, and we'll get that report a bit later on. Right. So,
One
ne-
thing I do want to say before we go on is just if Christian Horner does end up leaving, what do you think happens to Adrian Newey? Do you think he becomes a free agent, or do you think he stays at Red Bull?
I think he retires. That's what I think.
I think I think the man's got too much genius to retire.
You see, it plays into whatever the news about Lewis is. That's where I think he'd probably end up going to. Maybe if he doesn't retire, he'd go to that same team.
Oh, Lewis Hamilton, Adrian Newey. Oh Lord. Oh, hide your kids, hide your wife.
Hide
Oh
everything.
Lord.
It would be a scary time.
Everybody needs to hide. Everybody needs to hide. But in all honesty, I don't know who's not selling everything and anything in order to get Adrian Newey into their team.
Oh yeah, bro. I'm pretty sure Haas would do the same thing, like immediately.
Oh, oh, Haas could never get him. They would never. They could never.
I mean,
Their outfit isn't big enough to be able to sustain the ideas that Adrian has.
it's true, but it's not to say they wouldn't. Like, let's be real. After
Hey, everyone would.
they would. Like, I mean, we've seen everything. I mean, Gene Haas has right now gotten rid of Gunther as team principal. So I mean, if he is willing to get rid of Gunther Steiner as team principal, I mean, who are we to say he would pick up Adrian if he could? But the only problem Adrian would have is there's no budget.
There's no budget, there are no facilities. The organization of the team is very scattered because they have lead design in the UK and they have the engineering and the rest of the team in Italy. It genuinely makes no sense for the management style, and I don't think Adrian would flourish in that situation. But since you have brought it up, I we should just start talking about this whole Gunter Steiner and Haas situation.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, what? Gunther has been replaced by Ayo Komatsu as
Indeed.
is the new team principal of Haas, which is it's a very big surprise for us all. Like, I mean, if there's anything and a reason for any person coming new or old, you mention Haas, the first face you think of is Gunther Steiner. You don't even think of Jean Haas. Like, the team's named after the man, but he's the last person you think of when it comes to Haas. I would think of the drivers before I even think of Jean himself, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And like I can tell you now, Netflix, they are fuming right now. They like shit. We just
yes.
lost one of our greatest viewing reasons, and for what? For nothing? Like, okay, look, I don't want to undermine Io's capabilities. He might be a good team principal this year. We don't know, but he is unproven as it stands right now. And I mean, Gunther was the face. Gunther's the reason.
I mean, so much so. Gunther is the reason why Haas is even still a team in F1. In 2020, when there was a huge financial crisis for Haas, he's the one that went out and got the MoneyGram sponsorship. So it's because of Gunther that the team is even still afloat. And yes, I'm not saying that should give the team justification, and specifically Gene Haas justification to keep him in, but it's one of those situations where yes, you've replaced him with someone who is a more technical based director, and he's going to be someone that's going to come in and try to develop the car more in a more consistent manner. But the problem is that number one, Haas don't have money. Number two, Jean Haas doesn't put enough money into the team. The only money the team has is from MoneyGram. So what happens when MoneyGram decides to walk away? Granted, they are happy with the current sponsorship because they are getting airtime to an extent, but that's kind of the nature of what the current Formula One sort of design is. Every single team is getting a certain amount of airtime. And we're seeing that right now with the fact that MoneyGram is happy to stay on as a title sponsor for Haas. But the problem is that there's just not enough money. There's not enough resources. The team is too small. It doesn't bode well for them going forward because they're not in a position where they can keep this up. It's not sustainable. Yes, there is a cost cap. Yes, they're in a situation where they're not going to be burning money and then staying at the back of the grid and might just go into what's it called, administration. But the problem is they're just not competitive, and they've been not competitive for all of except 1 year in F1.
Yeah, and that's just the life of it. And going back to your point there, each team gets a set amount of screen time, obviously, right? And now, one of the reasons why Haas got a lot of screen time was because of Gunther, right?
Mm-hmm.
He was the face. I think Haas are going to probably get even less screen time. Like, if we can go back and look at last year, right? Ever since Sauber committed to abandoning their team for Audi, right?
Mm-hmm.
The F1 management and the guys in charge of race direction, and there's not the race director, but the cameraman and the race director in charge of cameras in this, slowly etched out Alpha from screen time, right? One, obviously the car isn't performing to its highest capability, but at the same time, they're not giving that screen time to them because it looks like they're not giving a level of commitment to the sport, and it just doesn't sit well with them to give them airtime when it doesn't do anything much for them or the sport, really. Albeit It's why we also called um, Valtteri and Joe the silent assassins the whole season, because
Yep, the most anonymous drivers.
you just randomly see, oh, Joe got into P9. Oh, okay. Didn't see that coming at all. Or you'd be like, oh, Valtteri, Bottas, and Joe ended up 17th and 16th. Quiet race. We don't see nothing. We don't hear nothing. All because there's no personality, right? With Haas, we got to see some little things, albeit it was more Netflix that drove the attention towards Haas for Gunther and all of that. But it's like, yeah, now I feel like Haas is gonna get a lot less screen time. Money Grab is gonna see that with this year, and they're gonna be like, that doesn't sit well with us. That we're getting less screen time here, which is then gonna force Jean to put pressure on the new team principal, and then it's just a cycle again. And then someone else is gonna go whispering into Jean's ears, being like, "Hey, I can do a better job." And it's what annoys me about one of the next topics we have for the podcast. It's just like Jean wants to be in the sport, but he's just like he's so happy. I believe I saw a post where it was like Jean's just happy to have his team in F1 because it's just great advertisement. That's all it is.
The question is, great advertising for what? What exactly do Haas do? They compete in other motorsport, but it's not like they're doing anything else. They're not building cars. They don't design anything. They don't manufacture anything. They don't sell anything. It seems like it's just a bit of an ego trip for a dude who actually doesn't care about F1 at all. That's what it looks like from the outside. And I don't want to put any disrespect or say anything disrespectful about Gene Haas because I don't know the person, but from the perspective of a fan who's been in watching F1 since 1998, it feels like it's a person who actually doesn't care about the sport, who's interested in the money and the advertising and the fame that comes with it. I mean, there's nothing of value that Haas is bringing to the team or to the actual organization.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And it's just a frustrating thing because we're just going to see them most likely at the same pace as last year. End up 10th place. Jean's gonna throw a hissy fit about being 10th again. But it's like you're not doing anything. You're not putting in more resources. Your whole facilities are split across the world. Your teams are just barely together. Like, we know Haas is also part of, NASCAR? I'm gonna be real, I don't watch NASCAR. Right?
It's either NASCAR or Indy. That's a bit of the problem, is that we're motorsport fans, but we watch WEC, Formula One, a lot of European-based racing because it's really competitive. I don't particularly enjoy watching any oval racing, so that's not exactly my speed, and I haven't really gotten into the Indy racing at all. I mean, I do find Formula E interesting, but I've never found the other categories as interesting. And the fact that at this point it seems like Haas is just in the sport for the money and the fame, it leaves a bit of a bitter taste in your mouth, especially when you're looking at potential teams like Andretti, who have been rejected by F1 on the basis that they apparently don't bring any value to the sport. Whereas, what does Haas bring to the sport? What is Haas bringing that Andretti Cadillac couldn't bring?
Exactly that, right? And that's actually the next topic. It is there, like, your F1 goes ahead and they reject Andretti, and with the ridiculous claims that they make, right? I honestly see there are 3 teams, right, that currently are sitting on the grid that are not sporting the quote-unquote ethics or whatever standards that the FOM has right now, right? Like, what value is stake F1 bringing? What value is money grab Red Bull Racing bringing? Like Sauber just abandoned the project because Audi bought them. Like, and Audi's not committing until 2026. So we got like what 2025, which is just a whole year of just fuckery from 3 teams, and the last obviously being Haas, where after what was 2016, where the Haas's were actually competitive, and then
when they were basically Ferraris.
yeah, and then and then F1 was like, hey, you know what? Cancel. You can't just copy the car straight up. They fell behind. They did nothing, and they were just like, oh shit. Yeah, I'm here. I paid my 200 million, so I get to stay in the sport. Like, come on.
I don't even think they had to pay that much money. In all honesty, the amount of money that they're expecting Andretti and them to pay is an outrageous sum of money. But the fact that now you've got teams like Sauber who are now Stake Kick Sauber, which is the strangest name change in F1, especially considering the fact that Audi now owns 50% of Sauber. It's why doesn't Audi just take the risk and actually just put their name on the car? I understand that they don't want to be seen as the car sitting at the back of the grid, but it's honestly starting to look really ridiculous from the outside, because now Stake is a gambling company, and then you've got Kick as well as a title sponsor. It really doesn't make sense why Audi is perpetuating this cycle. I understand that they're developing their engine and they're still going through that process, but it's just really starting to look rather foolish.
It really does. But it's actually something that is very, very representative of what F1 seems like right now in this current Liberty Media stage, right? It's a bunch of clowns, right? Like, I honestly think that the politics behind everything here has gotten way too big than what it should have been. Like, I know you can't. In Formula One, there's 3 things that run this show. It's the politics, it's the money, and lastly the racing, right? But I think the politics are like beyond like normal reason. Like, I mean, we have a case right now that the FIA and F1 management are fighting each other, right? The governance of the sport is fighting the actual sport itself, like purely because one side says yes, the other side says no because they want more money. I mean, like, I may be biased because FOM is just a whole bunch of right. Like, I mean, we can just go look at like a quick thing is F1 esports, right? The F1 2023 esports was supposed to happen last year in December and still be run through this year and end just now in Feb, right? Nothing, right? They didn't advertise anything about it. I mean, how hard is it to just make a post about, oh guys, you know what, F1 esports is happening? None of the teams had a problem with it, but F1 management were just like, oh, there's no return on investment on this, and so they abandoned the whole thing. It's just said, sweep it under the rug, we don't want to see this no more. And I feel like that's the same thing when they saw Andretti. They were just like, oh no, sweep it under the rug. He's not part of our little club that we in, so he can't join.
And that's honestly the biggest problem, I think, because you've got a person like Michael Andretti, who has been in motorsport for so long and actually cares so much about the sport, went out and got the right kind of sponsorship like Cadillac, who have decided that they're going to invest in building an engine by 2028. Yes, the timeline is a bit long. It's 4 years from now, but it's still significantly more than what Haas have ever promised. Haas has not promised to build a new engine. Haas have not promised to build a new wind tunnel. Haas have not promised to develop their car. Haas have not expanded their team. Haas has not done anything to me that looks like they're taking the sport any more seriously than Andretti would. But I think Andretti would take it considerably more seriously because he wants to be in the sport. He wants to be competitive. He's actually got a name that matters.
Exactly. I 100% agree with you. And I mean, if we just go and look at the reasons behind why they have declined Andretti. On the basis of the application, as it stands, we do not believe that the applicant has shown that it would add value to the championship. We conclude that the applicant's application to participate in the championship should not be successful. Number 20, we would look differently on an application for an entry of a team to the 2028 championship with a GM power unit, either as a GM Works team or a GM customer team, designing all allowable components in-house. In this case, there would be an additional factors to consider in respect of the value that the applicant would bring to the championship, in particular respect of bringing prestigious new OEM to the sport as a PU supplier. As well as, I think point 18 was that they said that they do not see the value, like they said, in them. That F1 would bring value to the Andretti name, but Andretti brings no value to F1, which I think is absolutely ridiculous and egotistical of them. To think that someone who wants to compete and wants to be competitive is not going to bring value to you when you have three teams that are sitting with no value to the championship as it stands right now. They just wasting fuel, wasting tires, when you could have two cars come into the championship and then actually be more competitive.
But here's the thing, F1 needs more cars because we already have an established amount of drivers, but we have so many junior drivers, so many other drivers outside of F1 that have so much quality, or at least perceived quality, and should be given a shot to at least be able to drive in F1. If you're going to give people like Logan Sargent an opportunity to drive in F1, if you're going to give Nikita Mazepin an opportunity to drive in F1, if you're going to give opportunities to Guan Yu Zhou to drive in F1, if you're going to give all of these other guys opportunities, you need to give people who have won championships in the lower categories the chance to drive. Théo Pourchaire has got no drive. He's a Sauber Academy graduate. He doesn't have any drive, but they're still hanging on to Guan Yu Zhou, which makes very little sense because he hasn't been that competitive. Yes, he's been closer to Valtteri, but I also think Valtteri's been doing a lot of the development driving in the car. We also know that we've got, I mean, look what happened with Théo, not Théo Pourchaire, with Oscar Piastri. Oscar Piastri would have been sitting on the bench if Alonso didn't decide that he was going to go to Aston Martin, and then there was the whole shake-up with him deciding that, with Oscar specifically deciding that no, I want to go to McLaren because there's an actual path there, there's an actual project there. And then on top of that, you've got Haas making decisions on bringing back old drivers who are not exactly going to move the goalposts forward. They're going to keep the team relatively where it is. I have no disrespect. I genuinely love Kevin Magnussen and genuinely love Nico Hülkenberg, but it's just it's a little underwhelming when you look at it from an objective perspective, where you're seeing two drivers who have quality, but they're not competitive enough to be able to drive the car and push development forward and make sure that the car is actually being developed in a direction that makes a difference. So that's where the complication comes in for me. You've got several teams that are not adding value as F1 has said themselves, but you're not going to allow another team that could potentially add value, because if you're allowing Haas to be there and apparently you're trying to break into the American market so aggressively because we now have 3 races that happen there, why not bring in another American team, one that's actually got pedigree, one that's won multiple championships in IndyCar, one that's got a respectable name behind it like Andretti, and on top of that, Cadillac. I understand that you want more prestige, but the problem is Andretti actually has prestige, and you're not bringing that sort of prestige into the sport, yet you'll keep Haas in the sport, yet you'll allow Sauber to have a gambling company as their title sponsor, and Stake Kick Sauber is their new F1 name. That makes very little sense to me. And then if you look at it, AlphaTauri have also got a name change. Their Visa Cash App RB. What is that?
It makes no sense. It's like I said, it's going to just a money grab. That's all they are.
It
Like
really
Haas
is.
is money
It
grab.
really is.
Both of these teams are money grab racing. Like
Indeed.
that.
That's really what they are.
Like I mean, now you're gonna have Crofty busy saying V carb. Like I don't want to say V carb. Like it's like okay, like but would you rather say? I would rather say Alpha Tauri than V carb. And it's like, oh, what is V carb? That sounds like it's a part of a car. Like I don't it's like it's a carburetor.
It
No,
does.
like
No, you're absolutely right. That's exactly what it sounds like. Bring back Toro Rosso. We're starting the revolution.
exactly. I'm gonna only refer to them as Toro Rosso or Alpha Tauri.
That's
Like I'm not calling it V carb, bro. Like
genuinely, I want to start calling it Toro Rosso again because I'm tired of this consistent name change. It was cool when it was Toro Rosso. Yes, okay, it means Red Bull in Italian, but at least there was some point to it. They were the Italian version of the Red Bull and the junior team, essentially. So we're just that RB is
yeah.
it just genuinely doesn't make sense because it should be named something more that has a little bit more meaning. I understand that Red Bull potentially wants to make a little bit of profit on the actual car and start to make some money off the fact that they're advertising with a title sponsor. But at least when Aston Martin picked up a title sponsor, their title sponsor was Cognizant.
Yeah.
Not many people knew who Cognizant was, but when you found out, you're like, okay, they're an IT team that supply computer products and software and all of that. Oh, cool. I can understand the link with F1 because there's a lot of ECUs and computer management software and computer technology systems that need to be running all at the same time. Okay, yeah, that sounds like it makes sense. The Google sponsorship with McLaren. Okay, yeah, that makes a bit of sense. Okay,
Yeah.
the Petronas sponsorship with Mercedes makes a lot of sense. They supply them with all their fluids for their car. Cool. The Shell sponsorship with Ferrari. That makes a whole bunch of sense. They supply them with all their fluids. Okay, cool. But all of these weird gambling thing, like a gambling sponsor, you've got a cash app sponsor. It reminds me of is the Rich Energy saga that we had a few years back with Haas, with no less than Haas.
Yeah.
And it seems very poorly thought out, especially when you at the same time as when they're coming out with these new rebranded cars and rebranded companies with their new title sponsors. In the same breath, you're rejecting Andretti. It just makes very little sense.
You know, there's partly why I think I can see one other reason why it also happened that they rejected Andretti, right? And that's
Mhm.
well, yes, most circuits can handle 11 or 12, right? The street circuits cannot. And what is the biggest trend right now in F1? Like F1 are doing one thing. I'll come back to the point, right?
Mhm.
Liberty
Yes.
Media, when Liberty Media acquired F1, we thought, oh, okay, they are targeting what audience? Because Bernie Eccleston was like, look, I don't care about the young guys. You don't have money. I'm looking for
Yeah.
those old rich guys who have money, want to spend money on the sport. Perfectly fine, right? The old generation did that. But Liberty
Yep.
was like, oh wait, you know what? The youth have this money. We
Mhm.
can get it from the youth. They're interested in the sport, everything. They did it great. But what's the one thing that
Yeah.
they stopped doing? Listening to us, right?
Indeed.
They announce a new street track. We say it's shit. We don't want the street track. Give us Hockenheim. Give us Sepang. Give us an actual race track. Like, let's race at a racetrack. Not, oh, let's convert a whole fucking city into a racetrack just because whatever. Like, sure, Vegas was a little bit cool and all, but like
Look,
the
Vegas
fact
was a fun race.
Yeah.
Vegas was a fun race. I will not lie. Going into that weekend, I was not excited about it at all. I was genuinely not excited. I thought it was going to be a procession. I really did. but it ended up being a really exciting race. But that was also because of the strategy plays that we saw happen. We saw Carlos Sainz being the smoothest operator and being the cerebral assassin. We saw some very competitive racing on that circuit. But I'm not going
Hmm.
to lie to you, there was a lot of lackluster moments.
Like
If it wasn't for the Carlos Sainz moments and the absolute brilliance in some of those moments, it would have been a lot more underwhelming.
it really would have, right? And now think about it like this, right? In a few years, right, we keep going to Vegas 3, 4 times, right? 4 years time, it's gonna be the teams already have the data of the track. They know,
Yeah.
oh, Vegas is gonna be like this or this, right? So
Mm-hmm.
Pirelli's gonna swap up, change up the tires, give them a little bit of a weaker compound to drain through, so that they have a better, they can use a different strategy, maybe make it a two-stopper. But at that point, it's gonna be the same old stale thing that we've seen before, right? And the only thing is, we just can barely fit 10 cars on that track, right? The pits, that's the biggest problem, right? Is there's no space to add an additional garage for a team, right? If we have all of this, I mean, F1's busy trying to do a Madrid race right now. They're trying to make a race in Chicago. I'm gonna be real with you. Who the hell wants a race in Chicago, bro? Like, you're gonna have the F1 drivers get shot just because they're racing? I'm gonna be real with you, dog. Like, I don't I don't want no F1 race in Chicago. Like,
That's a violation.
like, I'm gonna be real. But that's how I see it though, right? Like, why are we still having more street races? Like, it's some of them are cool. I mean, we look at Jeddah, right? Jeddah is just, it's not even really a street circuit, because like one or two cars goes driving out to that area of Jeddah, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's just the cornered off place where the Saudis were like, hey, or let's build a racetrack here for
Yeah.
whatever sake. That um, Jeddah can support easily a another two teams, right? But you look at Vegas. Vegas can't. Miami can't, right? Monaco can just barely even do it themselves with the 10 teams. Well, yeah, 10 teams that we have right now, right?
Yeah.
Monaco's suffering. You put in an extra two teams there, that's going to be a nightmare. I mean, I'm pretty sure Monaco is they already starting to rebuild up everything so that they can host the race right now, and
Well,
it's just like
well, yeah. So, yeah. Go ahead.
it's just like, why not just kick Haas out and just give it to Andretti? Like, force Haas out, get Andretti to just buy the team of Haas, let Andretti fix all the fucking problems with Cadillac, all of that, and then move their facilities, move their people over, and start up, right? Andretti he'll probably be shit in the first year, because they have to take over Haas's whatever Haas has done. But then
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure if they were like, hey Andretti, we're going to give you Haas, that man would go out and immediately force as many things to be done, like building the factories, wind tunnel, getting the staff hired, and acquire the right personnel for the team, get the engine ready. You'd probably rush to Cadillac to be like, hey, we need to build this engine now, so we're not buying from Ferrari next year,
Yeah.
right? And move on from this. I mean, with the MGUH getting removed, right? That's a big part that I know Audi's waiting for. That's the main reason why Audi's not trying to participate in anything, because they don't want to build an MGUH. Which is just, yeah, fair, it's a fair point there. But you wanted to say earlier?
I mean, look, that's the reason why Honda's coming back into F1, because Honda have been flip-flopping for multiple years on being engine suppliers. They're coming back into F1 because they're dropping the MGUH.
Yeah.
And that's probably, and in all honesty, that's the reason why teams like Porsche were looking at getting into the sport. That's the reason why Cadillac are interested in getting into the sport, because the moves that F1 is making for the engine make a lot of sense for actual car manufacturers. But another thing that F1 wants to do is they want to make the cars smaller. We've heard Ross Brawn say it a million times, and he's the technical director of F1. He has said multiple times, we want to make the cars smaller. So if we want to make the cars smaller, I don't see what the problem of having these cars at tracks like Monaco still, because it's a historical racetrack. I personally don't want to see Monaco go, because there's a lot of history there. I want drivers to be able to have their Danny Ricciardo moment. I want drivers to be able to have their Nico Rosberg versus Lewis Hamilton moment. I want to see that. I want to see that competitiveness at a amazing track like Monaco, because there is a lot of fun there. Yes, it's a little complex and it's not as fun and for some people, and it may not be as exciting, but I've had a lot of fun watching Monaco races. I'm always excited for the Monaco Grand Prix.
Hmm.
So that's my perspective on Monaco. But I genuinely think that if the cars are going to get smaller, which they definitely should, if the cars are supposed to get lighter, which they definitely should, I don't see why bringing another team in, because if we're talking about congestion on the racetrack, if we're talking about congestion in the garages, all of those things can be solved if you actually keep racing at actual built dedicated circuits. Circuits like, as you mentioned, Hockenheim. Circuits like continuing to race at Imola. Circuits like Portimao, which we had a few years back during the COVID era.
Hmm.
I mean, Portimao is an amazing racetrack. Every racing driver has said that. Why don't we have a Portimao racetrack, or Portimao race? Do you know what the genuine reason is? Money. That's what it is. That's
Yep.
why Jeddah have a race. That's why Vegas have a race. That's why Miami has a race. That's why they tried to push a race in Chicago. That's why so many races happen in the Middle East, which I'm not actually upset about, because I think Bahrain is actually a pretty good circuit. It's not the best circuit, but it's a dedicated built circuit for F1,
Hmm.
and that's what they do there. Jeddah is actually a fun racetrack, or it's a street slash not street racetrack. We've got so many. I mean, you've got Qatar, you've got the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. All of those places have genuine racetracks. So I don't. I see why they have the desire to want to have more races in countries like the Middle East, because they have the capital to actually pay F1 to come, which is, I mean, they're paying 50 million or something in order to have F1 come to their city every year. But the fact that they've a lot of those places, or majority, all of them except Jeddah, are purpose-built, dedicated racetracks. I don't see why we can't have more purpose-built races. Why are we dropping Barcelona and going to race in the middle of Madrid? Why are we not racing at Valencia? Why are we not racing at Hockenheim? Why are we not racing at the Nürburgring? Because there's a Nürburgring race circuit that's an F1 circuit.
Why are we not
Next
racing in South Africa?
exactly. I mean, Kyalami is right here. If you can race in a street circuit, you could race at Kyalami.
Galami did all the efforts to become a A-grade circuit purely to
Exactly.
host F1, but they still abandoned the whole concept. Like,
Again, it's the money. It's
yeah,
who is going to pay 50 million to F1 in order to have them come and host a race here?
yeah.
$50 million is a lot of money to have a fun time sporting event. Granted, I'm sure there'll be hundreds of thousands of people in South Africa that will flock to the racetrack.
Oh
It's
shit.
just it's just the fact that F1 is looking in a different direction and trying to money grab in another area.
It is. It's the money grab era of F1. Well, I do also
And
see. Yeah,
go ahead. No, go ahead.
I see that we also do have a response from Andretti Cadillac on the the incidents that have happened with Formula One management declining their interests. Right. So Andretti would like to address two initial topics in the statement released by Formula One management. When Andretti Cadillac entered the FIA, expression of interest process almost a year ago, the preferred first year of participation was indicated as 2025. The FIA approved our application with no specific limitation on whether the entry was for 2025 or 2026. Andretti Cadillac has been operating with the 2026 year as year of entry for many months now. Technically, the technicality of 2025 still being part of the application is a result of the length of this process. We were not aware that the offer of a meeting had been extended and would not decline a meeting with F1 Formula One management An in-person meeting to discuss commercial matters would be and remains paramount importance to Andretti Cadillac. We welcome the opportunity to meet with Formula One management and have written to them confirming our interest. Our work continues at pace. Is there more that needs to be said at their level of commitment to the sport? Like,
I mean, genuinely, because he's been rejected by F1 and he said, no, I'm not going to let that happen. I'm going to fight as hard as I can in order to get my team into the sport. Because he cares. He really wants to be here. And why would you not want someone who wants to be in the sport to be in the sport? Especially when there are other teams that seem like they've got one foot out the door or genuinely don't even care about the sport.
I have to agree. It just makes no sense, but it's the money grab. I mean, 600 million for them to join as a.
It's a maddening amount of money.
Bro,
it's a maddening amount of money.
He could just buy one of the teams with that type of money.
Yeah, if they have that 600 million and they're willing to put in billions in order to develop the car, surely they should be able to at least have the opportunity to buy a team like Haas. But the reality is, Gene doesn't want to sell because it seems like a little bit of a vain ego thing.
It definitely does. And that just is what they end up thinking. And it really is annoying and frustrating as a fan when we see a potential new entry come in to bring up spark, bring up some interest to the sport, because we currently still in the Max Verstappen domination era, and let's spark up some little light in the lower ranks of the teams. We know first place is always first and second's Max's positions, whatever, but the midfield, Andretti could bring an absolute battle for that midfield and fight for those points, right? But yet
he definitely could.
Yet we sit here with F1 management being absolutely greedy because they want more Middle East money. That's all they want, right? And
yeah, that's genuinely what it feels like.
And it's not it really shows that it's no longer about the fans, it's no longer about the sport. It's just been more about the money, right? It's not even much about the politics, as like the teams are the only ones doing the politics. F1 is just causing shit. It's not politics at this point. It's just shit.
I don't disagree with you.
Right.
I mean, yeah. I mean, like, since we are talking about Haas, we have to also look at the fact that they did release their car a few days ago.
Yep.
For the 2024 season, and yep, the design is interesting relatively. It potentially could be a little quicker, but we're also getting reports that AO is trying to downplay the potential of the car, which is honestly realistic because Haas already spent a little bit of extra money developing the car mid-season or towards the end of last season and diverted resources away from the 2024 car. So there doesn't seem to be much light at the end of the tunnel for the 2024 season for Haas, because the VF24 is, people are optimistic about it, but we'll genuinely have to see how it performs, because historically Haas will come to a new season with a car that might look competitive, and it might be a little competitive at the start of the season and very quickly fall off.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's going to happen this season. I don't think they're going to be particularly competitive at the start, but we also might find them in a situation where they perform somewhat like Aston Martin did last season, where they don't look particularly competitive and end up being a little bit more competitive towards the middle and end of the season. There is that potential, but we also saw what happened with Aston Martin. They started off pretty hot, and then eventually it trickled down and wasn't as competitive by the end of the season. So I don't know what exactly is going to happen with Haas. I don't know how the car is going to perform this season. the genuine reality is that it's not AO's input because he's only just become team principal. That car has been in development for several months and is already done. So any future development that happens is going to be, yes, AO's input, but there's only so much he can improve on. He won't be able to just, okay, team, build another car, let's drop that car, and then we're going to use the new car that we build under my strategy, because there's a cost cap, number one. Number
Yep.
two, Haas don't have the money and the resources to be able to do that. So it's a difficult situation for Komatsu. I don't know how he's going to manage the whole situation. It's a very complex situation, very complex situation down at Haas.
Mm, I have to agree with you. On the livery side, for me, I'm looking at the picture of the livery right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's it's a Formula One car. You know,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
that's how I see it. You know, there's nothing like eye catching. It, it's got it's got what the makings of a Formula One car. I like I said, I will always like the theme of red, black, white. It looks always great. I do think their designer could have a little bit more passion behind it, right?
Yeah, it
Like,
feels a bit lackluster in my opinion. When I look at it, I don't feel that the same wave of emotion or any sort of excitement. It just looks like a livery. It's a it's a bit of black, it's a bit of white, it's a bit of red.
it's
There's not.
ChatGPT generated.
Yeah, it actually that's really accurate because I'm looking at a side by side of the VF23 and the VF24, and the VF23's color scheme is better than the VF24's, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. Like, there's not much else that I can say about this livery other than it's a Formula One car, right?
Yeah,
It, it's gonna look as pretty as it always does, right? And I mean, there's no passion. I know Haas has more passion. They can be a better look for it, but when when like I don't know, there's just there's just something lacking here. In terms of racing, I expect Haas to do quite well at Bahrain. They always somehow manage to do really well at Bahrain, and then their trajectory falls off later of the season. It all just really depends now. Are they going to play towards something like, they start off strong and then by like they try to extend it. Like, let's say 6 races after, and then they like completely almost hit the floor, being in last place every single race. Maybe this time they're gonna try maybe make it 8 races so that they can be a little bit more competitive, and then after 8 races they fail, and then each year maybe there's hope that they can progress like a race each year. Who knows? In 23 years time they'll be able to compete like that completely. I don't know. That just sounds like maybe copium for me. Um,
that's a ridiculous timeline. I mean, to put it in perspective, that timeline makes no sense to me because we've also just had the release of the Williams car, which looks bloody amazing. Number one,
I
the
agree.
livery is gorgeous. Number two, the actual design of the car looks like it's leaning towards the Red Bull Aston Martin style of design in terms of the aero package. So it looks like a fast car. It
Does.
looks like a fast car. And they've got a fast driver in Alex Albon. And they've got an actual competent team principal in James Vowles, who's been at a team that's won 8 World Constructors Championships on the trot. So I think Williams look really nice. I think they look really good. We'll have to see how competitive the car actually is, but I've got a considerable amount of more faith in Williams than I do in Haas. I think Williams are going to be that dark horse team this season because number one, the car looks fast. I'll say it again, it looks fast, and number two, they've got a competitive driver in Alex Albon.
I have to agree with you there, man. Like, it's it that look of the new Williams is just freaking phenomenal. I I'm with it. I'm all on board for the new Williams look. Whether they can perform this year, right? I can believe in James Val's leadership a bit, right? He's been there at the team. He knows how well the team can perform. So to see what is he capable of with this new year, and because I mean, let's see, he started late for Williams last year, which means he would have had a little bit more time to work on this car, and overall, it looks good. Looks good. I like the livery. It could be a little bit better. Like I see how they went for it. Like these dark tones on the Williams. Yeah, I don't know. I just think maybe ever since McLaren showed me that Golf livery and at Monaco,
Don't
the
talk about the golf livery. No, we're not talking about the golf livery.
the
No,
blues hurt, right?
no,
Like
stop,
any blue,
stop it, stop it.
any blue
No, stop
doesn't
it,
work
stop
for
it,
me, right?
stop it.
That's all I'm
I know
saying.
exactly
That's
what
what I'm
you're talking
saying.
about. No, that golf livery is just, it's in a league of its own. It's in a league of its own. We're going to leave it there. We're just going to leave it there,
Right.
okay?
Back to the performance of the Williams. It's just like
That car is a 10. That car is a 10. Is gorgeous. Like every time I see there's something about that damn golf livery that just every time I see it, I go, damn it, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
No, it's a beautiful livery, but we gotta compare apples to apples, not apples to diamonds. We gotta.
I mean, it's fair, right? And looking at this Williams, it's not bad. It's not bad. I'm just more hoping.
I like it, man. I like it. I think it looks cool. I genuinely do. There's a lot more blue on it. I think the last car had more black on it because they tried to strip off a bunch of paint to make it a bit lighter. But you know, there's some I like the way the Williams looks. There is an appealing look to it.
Yeah, there really is an appealing look to this Williams, but I think it's gonna be an acquired taste for me right now. I'm still not there entirely. One thing I do find funny is how they only used Alex's number on the car. They didn't use a single bit of Logan's number, which is it's funny
If
to
you
say.
squint, you can see Logan's number. If you just squint and you maybe close one eye and you look at just the one.
Look at my ass. Nah, I don't think I'm gonna see Logan's number still. I do see one thing I like. I see Alex's number. I freaking love it. Right, it's beautiful, and we clearly for me it shows that the level of commitment Williams has to Alex. Right, and that's what I want to see this year. I want to see Alex at least push this team forward, and have the support from James to help drive this car forward. Because I mean, if we can get Williams fighting again, think about how much more sponsors will come back to Williams, right? Like Williams is another team that's so prestigious, like Ferrari, to be in F1. If Williams is competing again for points on a consistent basis, I see that Williams and Darlington Capital will love the investment, and they'll just start reaping the rewards.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that, but also I want to just go back to the golf. The problem I have is they slapped the golf sticker there, right? Okay, it's not my fault that I brought it up. They slapped the sticker right there on the car.
They did, but they're also a sponsor. Let's just hope that we get a golf livery this season, because that would be awesome.
Yes.
That would be just so awesome. I love those golf liveries every time I see them.
It would be awesome to see, right? I know, as well as we talk about them,
Yep.
Stake has released their car's picture, I believe.
Yep. Indeed, they have. It is very green.
I mean,
it is very green.
To be fair, I know why Stake did it, right? And it's not for F1 reasons, which is the thing that annoys me, right?
Yeah.
It's because they purely trying to take or be a bigger competitor to Twitch, right? Which, look, I invite competition. I love it, right? If you're going to bring your competition to a platform like Amazon and their Twitch platform, perfect, right? I like it because you're gonna force people to start innovating and bring reasons for why we should join your platform to another. But like, this reeks of just a sellout freaking. Oh, we got 1 year to advertise our platform. Let's do this now before Audi comes in and kicks our asses out, or limits how much more we have.
I do want to make a caveat because one thing I can say for certain is that you're not going to miss that car. You're not going to not see it. So maybe they're going to be less anonymous this season because we're definitely going to see it.
Oh, 100%, right? And this is the one thing yeah.
Okay, look, here, I have a bias. I love lime green. I love my lime green. I've
Yeah.
been saying it for years. I will always say it. I love my lime green. Um, Look, Kick is interesting because they are a streaming service. Stake is a gambling company. I don't know, man. Like they're in it for the wrong reason. But again, this is F1. We've always had weird sponsors. Sponsorship and F1 go together like peanut butter and jelly. Like it's or peanut butter and jam. It's just a regular thing. We have always had weird and interesting sponsors in the sport.
Yeah.
It's not often that you have them as the main title sponsor in the sense that it's structured the way it is. It's very strange to an extent because they're going to be stake kick F1, and in some countries it's going to be only kick F1 because gambling or online gambling as a whole or gambling as a whole is illegal. So it's weird to an extent. The color scheme is really interesting,
Mm-hmm.
kind of. Um, yeah.
So look,
I'm really trying here. I'm really trying
one
because
thing.
I love lime green, but something about it just it's rubbing my eyes the wrong way.
I hear you entirely, and I think it's the giant sponsorships that's on it, right? If we can just ignore
Maybe it's that.
if you can just ignore the sponsorships, right? What I love is that they went bold, right? Like,
They
it,
did. Yeah,
it,
I'll give them that.
in an era with F1 where like you see Mercedes rocking a black livery the whole year around, right? That's basically carbon fiber. They're rocking carbon fiber the whole year. And then FIA is like, and F1's like, no, Williams, you can't do that. It's like, but Mercedes, it's nonsense, right? You get Ferrari, I mean, it's in their name, Scarlet Ferrari, but they have a yellow. They legit have a trademarked yellow and white, which would look absolutely fantastic. But I mean, when you see
Well,
F1 racing, you're not gonna want to see a Ferrari in any other color than their scarlet red, right?
I agree with that. I agree with that. They have had some like the Maranello race where they had that deep red Ferrari. That
Mm-hmm.
was a beautiful color. Uh, they had an interesting color scheme at the Vegas Grand Prix where they swapped out the black for the white.
Yep.
Something about that really hit really hard, and I loved it. It ticked the right boxes at the right time. Do you know what it is? It kind of gave me flashbacks to the Schumacher era of Ferrari. I think that's what it is. Is the red and white just brings back a little bit of that nostalgia.
It could definitely do that for you. But one thing I do like, and I was still making the point, was this green it's fantastic. It really
It's
is,
bold.
right? No other team is gonna go for such a crazy color out of nowhere on the team. Like where it feels like most teams are very corporate, right? Kick and F1 Stake is here being like, hey, yo, we're not really that corporate. Even though I mean, it's Kick's colors, right? That lime green is legitimately just Kick's
Yeah,
colors.
it
But
is.
in the first place to go for such a color, it's one thing is clear. They are going to make sure that when you see this lime green, you're going to probably think of Kick or Stake. One of the two That's what it is, and I think they have achieved their goal of with their marketing to try make sure that when you think the bright green car, you're gonna think that's Stake F1 team. I mean, I tell you, pink Mercedes. You know which team pink
Oh
Mercedes
yeah,
is,
no. Oh no, I know exactly what you're talking about.
right?
Yep. No,
Uh,
exactly what you're talking about. You don't even have to keep talking. I know what you're talking about.
exactly. Everyone here knows. So
And it's
when
got
we
BWT on it.
exactly right, and I tell you, and now I'm gonna tell you, hey yo, the bright green F1 car. I don't know. We will see yet what and who Stake is trying to copy in specific. I think they're going more towards the Red Bull esque style. So you can say the green Red Bull.
Well,
So
we already have that. We already have that.
we do the lime green Red Bull. I mean we
No,
have
this is the
copycat.
lime green Red Bull. We already have green Red Bull.
I mean that's
We
true.
already have the Aston, which is the green Red
Red Bull.
Bull.
I mean
But
that's true.
this is interesting. I mean, most of the cars seem like they're going on a similar design path to the Red Bulls. And I've heard through the grapevine and through some online forums that apparently Red Bull is looking to go a completely different direction from last season. So either their new car is going to be absolutely sensational or an absolute nightmare. I mean, I don't want to say anything bad, but I would prefer for it to be a nightmare so that we can get some competitive racing. But I don't know if Adrian's ever going to miss. So that's kind of where we're at right now.
He don't miss, right? Like that's
He
the
don't
thing.
miss, bro.
I
He
I
don't miss.
I agree with you there because I mean, everyone here at the late breakers watched the YouTube video where they compared what would the championship have been looked like had Max Verstappen not been in the championship, right? And it was legit a title fight between Lewis Hamilton and Fernando Alonso all the way to the end of the season,
Absolutely was.
right? It was absolutely crazy, right? Okay, maybe Checo actually would have been ahead because he still did end up finishing ahead of Lewis in the championship. But I mean, that was a phenomenal video. If you haven't seen it, ladies and gentlemen, you should go and find the video and see what F1 would have looked like without the Red Bulls in the championship. It really was a competitive, and that's actually a thing. If we're looking back at it, 2023 was a pretty good year, barring Red Bull's dominance, right? Everyone,
Well, Max Verstappen's dominance was absolutely insane. We haven't seen a season like that in
yes,
genuinely in my lifetime. I've never seen a season as dominant from a driver ever. It it was a sight to behold, and I hope it's a one and done. I hope next season is not more of the same. I hope that the rest of the teams can actually bring a better fight to the Red Bulls. I genuinely hope for that because I want to see other people on the top step. I want to see other people competing for race victories. I want to see other people competing for podiums.
yeah, I agree with you. We need to see more race race winners. Like this year's goals in my bingo card is Lando Norris race victory, right? That's on my bingo card. Like I need to see a Lando Norris race victory, right?
My bingo card is Lando Norris race victory, Oscar Piastri race victory,
Mm-hmm.
Lewis Hamilton race victory, George Russell race victory. Like there's a lot on my bingo card. There's a lot of things on my bingo card. I would love to see a Fernando Alonso win. That would be absolutely amazing.
Oh,
That
that
would
would be
be
great.
oh man, that would be an absolute party if Fernando Alonso pulled off a race win.
It would be freaking great. I would really love to see it. More on my bingo list, right, is to complete my bingo list. I think we should go to the elephant in the room. But like, I think we've been dancing around the big elephant.
We have, no, we have. I've looked at, like, I've got my notes open and I've looked at it like 4 times, and I just don't want to talk about it. I just don't want to talk about it.
Look, as much as like I want to just close my eyes and be like, please don't exist, and like open my eyes and peek out, it's like, damn it, it still exists. Like, what?
No, it's a dream. It's just a dream. It's just a dream.
Right? It's so hard to even say it. Lewis Hamilton to Ferrari, like to the Scarlet Ferraris.
Oh man.
Whoo! Yo, hold up, give me a moment.
2025 is going to be one hell of a year.
And you know what the interesting thing is, right? I saw a tweet. It was like Lewis wanted a 2+1 year contract from Mercedes, plus an ambassador role, and
Mm.
Mercedes were not willing to give him the ambassador role. Right. I'm pretty sure Mercedes would be perfectly fine with giving him a 2+1 year contract.
Yeah.
Right. I don't see any reason why they wouldn't want to do that for him, other than one young Kimi Antonelli is the only other reason. But like the main thing was that the ambassador role, and guess what? Ferrari gave him that. Ferrari was like, yeah, we'll give you an ambassador role plus a 2+1 year contract. So not only 2025, 2026, and possibly 2027 is Lewis Hamilton racing. Think about it. Lewis might just retire the same time Max chooses to retire at the end of 2028. That's
Cool. That is one hell of a statement.
that that's how crazy it is, right? So let me first get your thoughts on this move from Lewis.
Oh, so many mixed emotions, man. I've been watching Lewis Hamilton race since like 2005. So this is one of those moments where you're just like, oh, okay, oh, it's happening, it's happening, it's happening, it's happening. I genuinely didn't think it would. It's the thing is, it's Ferrari. Everybody wants to race for Ferrari. If you're a Formula One driver, Ferrari is the team you want to drive for. And when I look at it objectively, and I look at it from the perspective of, if Lewis could win his eighth world title in a Ferrari, undisputed GOAT.
Hmm. Absolutely.
Undisputed GOAT. Because he's genuinely then won in every car he's competed in. He's competed in the McLaren, won his world championship there. He competed in the Mercedes, won his world championships there. If he goes to Ferrari and pulls off a championship victory there, and brings the world championship back to Maranello,
For 8
Italy
titles.
might Italy might explode. Italy might genuinely have another Pompeii moment.
Yeah. It really might just be that crazy of a moment for Ferrari. I mean, I watched a video, right? I don't know whose video. I think it might have been a Supercar Blondie video or this, right? Well, some random person. They opened up a Ferrari California. Yes. And inside that Ferrari California, you know what's the funny thing? They had the last time in the Ferrari California. It says
Mm-hmm.
how many race, or I think it's not race victories, or how many victories, championship victories Ferrari's had.
Yeah,
And till this day, it is still accurate,
it is. Yeah.
right? It is accurate. Think about how long ago the Ferrari California was released. Like, we in 2024, I'm pretty sure the Ferrari California was released years ago.
I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure it was between 2007 and 2009 when the Ferrari California came out. So around that time is when that car came out, and Ferrari won their last world championship in 2007 with Kimi Raikkonen. That is the
2008.
last time. 2008. I was right there. See, I said 2007 to 2009. I was right there in the middle, perfectly in the middle. So the year after Kimi won the world title, and it's still accurate.
Till this day.
Still accurate.
Bro, it is almost going to be a whole decade.
It's been 7 years since they've won a world title. The closest they got was in 2022 when Charles had that amazing lead, and then for beautiful Ferrari strategy, absolutely destroyed that.
I agree entirely. And, you know, it's that is the biggest concern that I have, right? As being a Lewis fan, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, you're the 7-time GOAT, right? And you're looking for a move, right? Fair enough. He said multiple times, if you were to move to another team, it would only be Ferrari, right? he would only move to Ferrari, and that's the only team. Fred Vasseur joining Ferrari, plus now Lewis also saying that the only other team he'd race for would be Ferrari. It, the stars aligned, right? And
They really did.
they really did brilliantly. But my honest opinion is, I cannot see him winning the eighth title in Ferrari, provided that Ferrari is the same as it stands right now. Right? Purely because if you look at it, right, Charles doesn't know how to be his own race engineer. Carlos is his own race engineer because he's noticed the incompetency of Ferrari strategy at all.
Yep.
So, and the funny part is that because Carlos has to be his own race engineer, every other team just gladly gets to hear what his strategy is over the radio, because he can't even be like strat A, strat B, plan A, plan. Because Ferrari's just gonna be like, we'll pull out the dictionary and we'll go to plan Z, 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 F, Z, W, X, Y, and you're like, what the fuck is that plan? Right? For all I know, that means hope there's rain that pours out in pit. So
genuinely, I mean, for me, the moment I'll never forget is when I believe it was Carlos in the car. It might even have been Charles, but I think it was Carlos, where he's on the radio with his race engineer, and they say Plan F, and it's like you go A, B, C, D, E, F. That's 6. How is a driver remembering 6 different plans? That you expect the man to? How do you expect him to remember all 6 of these plans?
Like exactly, I think it was Charles, and then Charles came back on the radio. And it's like, I don't know what Plan F is. And it's just like,
what's Plan F? Plan F is for Ferrari. Plan Ferrari. And what does that mean?
Failure.
I have no idea, but we're going to find out.
So it definitely is. It's on the scale of fuck around and find out. Like that is so. All
I'm waiting for is them to go, okay, Lewis, Plan H, Plan H.
Plan H. Remember pit strategy? It's like, what pit strategy, bro? Like,
what pit strategy?
So, also, I've been reading here, right, from Formula Races on Twitter. They were saying that Hamilton's Ferrari arrival could help recruit more engineers to join the team, right, per Sky F1, right? And the funny thing is, they've already claimed that they are down to bring Peter Bonington with him. So Lewis could get Bono with him, moving over to Ferrari.
And you know what? That is golden. That is absolutely golden. Because Peter Bonington actually knows what he's doing. Peter Bonington's got tons of experience. Peter Bonington has helped Lewis win 8 world championships. Well,
7.
no, sorry, my apologies. 6 world championships. Ooh, I'm getting ahead of myself here. I'm getting excited.
6.5. 6.5.
Well, 6.5. But I think it's a good move if they're able to bring in Peter Bonington. I've also heard that they're bringing in a few other key personnel from Mercedes that could potentially be joining Ferrari as well. I think the major benefit and major reason why Lewis is even joining Ferrari is because Fred Vasseur is there, because they have a relationship back in Lewis Hamilton's ART days. So there is that aspect, and we also know that he's able to manage a team with far less resources than any other team, and we saw a certain amount of that in this season where the strategy wasn't as atrocious as it was in 2022. 2023 season had better strategy. It wasn't great, but also how much can he change in one season? We do know that Laurent Mecchi is leaving and he's going to AlphaTauri, and there is potential for some shake-up there. So I think we'll see how they perform this season. I think that they should be better this season. I think a lot of it is the fact that I just hope that they are better. And that really irks me because, I hope Ferrari is going to be better this season purely because Lewis is going to be joining them the following season. And I want them to be good so that Lewis gets a positive experience in a Ferrari. We've seen too many drivers go to Ferrari, Fernando Alonso, Seb Vettel, Kimi Raikkonen, and have really difficult times.
Mm-hmm.
So I just hope that it doesn't end up being one of those situations and is an actual positive experience for Lewis. And maybe he doesn't get the championship, but I hope he gets a couple of wins. In my head, the ideal solution: Lewis wins his 8th world championship at Mercedes this year, goes off into the sunset to race for Ferrari for a couple of years, wins a couple races for the Tifosi, and then rides off into the sunset.
Yeah, and calls it a lovely day. You
Yeah,
know.
that's the ideal solution. The realistic solution is Max Verstappen's going to go on the trot and win his 4th. That is the more realistic situation.
Yeah.
But but
Mm-hmm.
but the hope is that Lewis is able to put it together and maybe win a world championship this year. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know. I don't know if I have enough faith in Ferrari to be able to pull it together, because we've seen time and time again when they brought in Fernando Alonso, 2-time world champion, the guy who beat Michael Schumacher, and they were like, cool, we're betting our future on this man's, and this man's is going to win the world championship. Came close, specifically in 2010, but no cigar.
Yep.
Then they moved on to Seb Vettel, a 4-time world champion, and they're like, okay, yeah, we're betting our future on this guy. He's going to come in and he's going to win us a world championship. Came close. 2017, super close. Close, but no cigar. Now they're doing, I mean, they at least they're stepping up. They're doubling up.
Yeah.
Because first it was Alonso with 2 world championships. Then they're like, okay, that didn't work. All right, let's try Seb. He's got 4 world championships. All right, damn, that didn't work. Okay, let's try Lewis. He's got 7. Surely it's gonna work.
It's at some point maybe they will. Maybe they'll try poach Max when he's at his 10th world championship, and he's just like, please, let's go. But it's pain, right?
It is a lot of pain. It is a lot of pain.
And I think for me, the whole thing stands as well. As much as I love Louis, but I've been saying this to everyone. I think this is a Delulu moment for Lulu. I have no faith in Ferrari, because at one point, right, next year, he's gonna have absolute no say on the car, right, until
Yeah.
the season is over, right. So he's got Lewis has to focus on the Mercedes car. He's gonna develop the car for the next year, because why not? And then
Yeah.
it ends up being a thing of, oh, now he has to sit with a car that Charles and Carlos built up for the next year, and I just don't know where that's going to stand, right?
Why? I think the major benefit to the fact that he's joining this season or in 2025 is because he'll get a year to embed himself in the team. Most likely, everyone's going to gravitate towards him because he's Lewis Hamilton. And in 2026, when the rule change happens, I think the development is going to be better for Ferrari, because Ferrari don't do the same thing as all the other car manufacturers where they have the separate twin turbos, whereas they have their turbos much closer together, and that's going to be the direction that the new regulations are going. So there is that potential. There is potential that Ferrari might have the most powerful engine for 2026, and I hope that they do, only because Lewis is going to be driving there. I hope that they have a competitive car. I hope they have a competitive setup. I hope it works out. Look, the car is quick. The car can win races. We've seen that over the past few years, that they are capable of winning races with the right strategy and the right person at the wheel. So there is a lot of potential there. I think the car can be competitive. It just depends. And the thing is also Lewis is very adaptable behind the wheel. So for anyone that's going to come and say that, oh no, it's Charles's car, Lewis is not going to be able to drive it. I've seen Lewis drive absolute crap boxes and win races. So, I think that there is a lot of potential for Lewis, and that's maybe what he's looking at. He's thinking about it from the perspective of, I've got a lot of experience. I've driven multiple generations and types of cars. I've won in multiple generations and types of cars. I can go and win there. If they back me the right way, I can win there, especially when he said multiple times to Mercedes that, look, we're going in the wrong direction. Look, we're not doing this. Look, this is the way we should be going. And the team hasn't been able to address his concerns. That is potentially the biggest reason why Lewis has decided to move on, which I genuinely didn't expect to happen. I thought Lewis was going to retire at Mercedes, but I mean, to preface this, I thought Lewis was going to hold the seat for a few more seasons until Kimi Antonelli was ready to step into the car, and then he would ride off into the sunset. I think this fast tracks Kimi, and Kimi's probably thinking, yo, I need to go and blitz F2 so I can go get that Mercedes seat. So this is going to be an exciting season for F2. The F2 cars are all new. It's an all new archetype. They're going in a similar direction with the downforce of F1, which is the reason why Kimi Antonelli has skipped F3 and is going straight into F2 so that he can get that experience behind the wheel. I know a lot of people have been asking questions. Who is Kimi Antonelli? Why is he so important? Kimi Antonelli is a generational talent. He's a kid who's won, I believe it's 60% of the races he's competed in. He's won in I think 6 different categories in open wheel racing. He is so competitive. He is so quick. He is so adaptable. That kid is going to be brilliant. Mark my words, that kid is going to be brilliant. I hope that he has a good season in F2. I hope that he's able to step it up and actually be able to compete with the drivers he's next to. And I hope he's able to ensure that he can get himself that opportunity to be able to get into that Mercedes.
I agree.
I mean,
Totally
if
agree.
not, I don't know what exactly Mercedes are going to do.
No, that's the other thing. I want to get back to that there. Um, I just think that overall, Ferrari. I don't think Ferrari is ready for to handle Lewis, but we'll see what Lewis can possibly do in Ferrari. We know that
Mm.
he is a very good leader, right? I honestly think like Ferrari said it themselves, right? There is no first driver in Ferrari as it stands right now. It's just Carlos and the Leclerc show, right? They do what they
Yeah.
do and they drive. When Lewis rocks up, I'm sorry to Leclerc, but Lewis is going to be the number one driver. Lewis is going to spearhead the development into a car that he's more likely going to like and build it into a better vehicle overall with all the experience he's had in
Mm-hmm.
building the car, and he's hoping that maybe there's some different level of change, but I don't know if it's going to be something that he's going to enjoy as much as he previously has. Well, it's only time can tell, right? Especially with next year not being the rule change, right? I would
Yeah.
have honestly thought what Lewis would have done with Mercedes is if he really wanted to do a swap out or change team, is that he
Mm-hmm.
would wait for the 2026 regulations to come in. But I guess this is why he wanted to join 2025, right? Because
Yeah.
if you look at it, Carlos Sainz's contract expires this year, so he can come
Yep.
into the team next year and build the 2026 car with Ferrari over not building it with Ferrari and then having to hop into this random car with a new regulation change and a whole bunch of things, whereas he can rather spearhead the 2026 car development for himself and then reshape Ferrari into a better team and better performing. I definitely do think that Lewis will try and convince Bono to move with him. That's a very key thing for him. If Lewis does not have Bono as his race engineer, I honestly believe his whole career at Ferrari is going to go down in flames, and it's not going to be anything worthwhile because you're gonna hear from Lewis on how frustrated he's gonna get with the strategy being garbage, the most likely reliability gonna hit him, which is gonna be a thing that's gonna hurt him again, right? He's gotten so comfortable
Yeah.
at Mercedes of not having
Yeah.
a DNF but due to reliability issues, right? His
Yeah.
few
Yeah.
DNFs
That is a good point.
have been because one, he crashed into George or he crashed into Max, right? Or
Yeah.
either way, he's
Yeah.
crashed with another driver, right?
Yeah.
Whereas with Ferrari, he's gonna run into these issues where it's reliability issues, right? And even now, we look at it, the F1 have increased the minimum engine allowance, right, to 4 engines a year now, right? So now
Yeah.
teams are gonna be freeload, right? You look at it here. Mercedes managed to run the whole of last year with 3 engines. They didn't even take a single penalty. Red Bull did the same. Didn't take a single
Yeah.
penalty, right?
Yeah.
But now you're gonna hand them 4. What's the point? What's the point of the whole penalty systems for taking extra engines? I honestly think they should have just decreased it by 1, right? Let,
No, no. I disagree. I
I
disagree.
think
I like the fact that they've increased it. I don't like the limitations that they're putting, making it so difficult to hang on to an engine. It felt a bit lackluster. Granted, I will say that it's been super impressive at the fact that a lot of the top teams haven't struggled with that, and it didn't seem like last season that many teams actually took any race penalty or any penalties for replacing an engine. But what we definitely don't want to see is less engines that are degrading at a rate that makes races less competitive. What we want to see is the drivers going for it. The whole point of racing is driving hard, driving fast, and trying to win.
I
And
agree.
if you have more potential and you feel more comfortable knowing that, cool, we've got an additional engine in the bank. For instance, the smart strategy would be, okay, we're going to just pretend like we only have 3 engines, and then should we need it, we have the fourth.
I do agree, and I see your point there. I see though that having your reliability and your engines is part of a strategy as well, right? The inverse
Mm-hmm.
is a strategy, right? You're wearing down this engine, right? Number one, it's one of the reasons why the MGUH is being removed for the 2026 regulations, right? Is that modern day cars, right, cannot use an MGUH, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
There's no point to it. That like, sure, the MGUH increases the thermal efficiency of F1 engines by drastic. I think it's over by 30%, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But modern combustion engines in a car, and that's the biggest thing, is that's their target audience, right? If you look at it, Pirelli, why are they targeting being the number one tire sponsor for F1? Is to promote their tires, right? Their tires can be
Absolutely.
pushed at a high rate and survive for X amount of laps, whatever, right? The Mercedes, all of them are, yeah, like, look at our engines. Our engines are so reliable, even at a rate of being pushed to the max, revving it at in racing speeds all the time, right?
Yeah.
The inverse, where you make limited, you get more penalty. You get a penalty for using new component, right? New engine or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm only really targeting engine specifically, right? And now it's a thing of, it kind of brings the other teams into play as well, because while yes, your aero is carrying you, right, the
Mm-hmm.
amount of wear that you as a team put on your specific engine ends up playing into a big factor. Like, imagine you'd see like mid race, all of a sudden now maybe the Mercedes engine is losing a bit more power. They're not pulling out the full 1100 horsepower. They're only pulling out 900. And here
Yeah.
comes an Alpha Tauri that can come, or sorry, Toro Rosso can finally now compete with the Mercedes in the straight line. And now there's a battle going on just because of this. I don't know. It's a little bit of a me theory crafting and coming up with a reason for the inverse option, or playing devil's advocate really, in decreasing the amount of components. It's not nice to always be given out penalties, right? Like,
Yeah.
the
I agree.
penalty system is hot mess. But to get back to the actual issue, really here is let's look at who are the drivers who have their contracts ending this year, right? Because Mercedes have a seat to fill, Audi have a seat to fill, well, 2 seats really for themselves, and many teams have seats to fill, right? So contracts expiring end of this year. Sergio Perez. So there's a Red Bull seat open, right?
Yes.
Carlos Sainz's seat is obviously going to Lewis Hamilton, but Carlos's contract is expiring. Fernando Alonso's contract is expiring.
Yes, it is.
Lance Stroll's daddy owns the team, so his contract just needs to be refreshed.
It's just rolling.
Yeah. Gasly and Ocon's contracts are both expiring.
Mm-hmm.
Whether the French team is going to be patriotic like they've been this whole time, who knows what their management's thinking? I don't know, and I know you don't either.
Yeah, their management is all over the place. We've seen that over the past few years. I think an interesting move would be to bring Carlos Sainz into that Alpine seat and potentially drop Esteban Ocon. You keep Pierre Gasly because Pierre Gasly is the guy that's going to help you drive the team forward. But you bringing in Carlos Sainz to that team, or bringing him essentially back to the team, might just be a masterstroke because he's a really competitive driver. Mm-hmm. But also another interesting thing is potentially him grabbing the Aston Martin seat from Alonso. That's also an interesting play.
That is an interesting play. I think, right, let's first finish the list and then I'll tell you where I think most drivers are going. Alex Albon's contract ends this year, as well as Logan Sargent's contract. I mean, Logan's always going to be handed a 1-year deal, right? Yuki Tsunoda's contract, as well as Danny's, ends this year.
Mm-hmm.
Bottas and Zhou's contracts end this year, and Nico Hulkenberg and Magnussen's contracts end this year.
Yep.
Right. So, Perez, I'm going to skip.
I think it would be easier to even say only Oscar Piastri, Lando Norris, technically Lance Stroll, Charles Leclerc, George Russell, and Max Verstappen are the only people that have secured contracts. Everyone else is playing musical chairs, and it's going to be the silliest of silly seasons come the end of the season.
It really is. So, here's my prediction, though, right? And we're going to come back to this video, this little end bit, when...
Yeah, we have to.
At end season results, before silly season starts. Probably next year, we'll come back just before season starts as well to see.
I think contracts are going to start being negotiated midway through the season, bro. I'm going to be...
I agree with you, but it's not going to be as publicized as it will be in season.
That is absolutely fair.
As in silly season, right? Because it's just a lot of talks that are going to be happening, and they're not going to want to leak as much things. But let's get on to my picks here. Perez, I don't see having a seat yet, right?
I agree with that.
Because Carlos Sainz is going to be picked up by Red Bull, right? Ballsy. But I think what Carlos will do is negotiate a 1-year deal with Red Bull, and then move to Audi in 2026, right? Remember, Carlos Sainz is Audi's number 1 hit list, right? That's the first driver they're looking for, and they want him. As well as I saw a post earlier that said Carlos Sainz, while he is thinking about Audi, he's still gonna keep his options open, which tells me he's down to take that Red Bull seat for a year, and then move to Audi afterwards, right?
I mean, that depends. If he goes to that Red Bull team and he's able to string together some wins and be competitive and close to Max, I think he's going to try and stay. I think he would look at it from the perspective of, man, I could win a world championship here.
Exactly that.
Especially because he's also a Red Bull Academy product. So there's a little bit of that he's coming home type of situation.
Exactly that. There's something that sits there, right? I don't know. Something inside of me is screaming that, right?
Something inside of me is screaming Alex Albon is going to grab that seat.
At Red Bull. Okay.
Yep.
Definitely.
Yep.
But, like, let me...
think,
yeah? You think?
I think the fact that they let him go and they seeing how competitive and how good he is in the Williams is making Christian Horner go, maybe I shouldn't have listened to Helmut Marko. Maybe we should have kept the kid.
Yes, maybe.
So there's high potential that he might be able to get his way back into an actual competitive situation in that Red Bull.
It could definitely could be, right? But I don't see Alex going to Red Bull, not yet, right? Not when other potential that are sitting on the table here are available, right? Especially Carlos
Mm-hmm.
Sainz, right? The Carlos Sainz is freaking brilliant, right? It's a very
I
hard
confirm.
ask for Red Bull to take that. But let's go to Fernando Alonso, right? He is one of three people who are going to jump for that Mercedes seat right now. I like we spoke about this on WhatsApp already, but like we
Mm-hmm.
said, the moment the news was announced, Fernando already called Toto Wolff. We know this for
Oh
a fact.
yes. Oh yes.
And they had like a 2 hour phone call, chatting, catching up. Alonso wants that seat. I can smell that blood in the water, and I know he's being a shark and he's chasing for it. That seat. Alright?
Mm-hmm.
So Alonso's definitely hunting for that seat. The second person who's hunting for that Mercedes seat is definitely gonna be, or not, I wouldn't say he's necessarily hunting for it, but is on Toto's radar, would be Alex Albon, right? Alex
I
is
can
doing
agree.
a phenomenal job there in that Williams. If he does a great job right now at the start of the season, that's that contract. It's most likely gonna be that contract signed for Alex there, right?
I want to caveat that the reason why I don't think that's going to happen is because with Alex Albon, that's a person you can put into the seat for the next 5 years, and whoever gets the contract is going to get a 1 to 2 year deal max.
Yeah,
Because we've spoken about it before, and we'll say it again. The chosen one, Kimi Antonelli, is coming.
that's
He
that
is coming.
that's
He
the
is
thing.
coming.
That's the
There is
thing.
no two ways about it. That boy is coming. He is coming for that seat. He is coming for your job. He is coming for your titles. He is coming.
He's there, and I totally agree with you, right? That's who my third and final person is for that Mercedes seat, right? Is Kimi Antonelli, and everyone, you can join us for watching F2 this season,
Mm-hmm.
as we will be
Mm-hmm.
watching along, supporting Kimi in his drive in F2 this year. I mean, I showed it briefly here. You can see in 2018. Look at how many firsts in 20. He scored two firsts, a third, a sixth, a second first, first. Look at it. Look at this. Just look at how many wins this man has been securing. Recently, in some other smaller championships, he wasn't doing the greatest. Yeah, the FI World Championship, CIK, this championship. What is this? It's a karting championship. He came 15th. The Winter Series for this other karting championship, 34th. He's there, and that's just his karting career, right? Look at his
Yep.
F4 championship. Look at this here. Look at these victories that you just see here. This boy he's hot fire. So if you don't know who
He
he
is
is,
hot.
come join us on stream for these races. You will not
And you
want to
will
miss
very
this.
quickly learn who he is.
You are in
Look,
for some joy watching Kimi race.
look. I've also got my three picks for the
The
for
same seat.
the Mercedes seat.
Yeah.
My three picks are, look, I think it would be very interesting to have Fernando Alonso in the seat. He is one of my picks. I would love to see that because competitive driver in a competitive car just works. I've got a very, very, very dark horse. A very dark horse.
Okay.
Seb
Okay.
Vettel, Seb Vettel to come out of retirement and grab that seat. Come
Ooh,
back for
ooh,
two
ooh.
years. Come back for 2 years. Drive under the German banner. You know,
Ooh.
something about that just tastes it's very tasty. It's very tasty.
It really is. It is some.
It's very tasty.
That is some surefire spiciness right there.
It is super spicy. And he's
Oh,
been out for a year. He's tasted a bit of retirement. He's sitting at home. He hears that Lewis is leaving Mercedes, and he's like, "Huh, yeah, I think I might come back just for a little bit, just for a couple of years, just to
Race that Mercedes.
jump into a competitive car and see how things go."
Mm-hmm.
And if we're going to talk about a driver that can develop a car, who develops cars better than Seb other than Michael Schumacher?
I can't tell you. I honestly cannot
I
tell you.
can't tell you. I can't tell you. I can't tell you who develops cars better than that guy, because he just does so well in development of cars. He's such an underrated and disrespected driver, in my opinion. He is so great. He's a great human being.
Mm-hmm.
He's a great driver. He's a great developer. He's a mentor. He's everything you want. Look at how good Charles Leclerc got because of his experience with Seb Vettel.
Mm-hmm.
Think about what George could glean from having two of the best drivers of his generation as his mentor, helping him through the development of that car. I think it would be fantastic, absolutely fantastic, to get set back into the sport. Firstly, secondly, him in a Mercedes, something something is it's just very tasty to me, very tasty.
It's all around German engineering. It's all.
It, it's something about it just tastes so right. It feels correct.
It
So,
just is.
Fernando Alonso sounds good. Seb Vettel sounds delicious. It just that Mercedes just, oh man, it just sounds exciting. And the fact is, and the reason why I'm going with those two drivers is because you only need to give them a 2-year deal, because I don't know how much longer they're willing to stay in the sport. They want to come into a team where they could potentially win and compete for a title. And you've always got that potential with Mercedes, but eventually that you got to head out the door, because
It's time to make way for the youngins.
it's time to make way. Kimi is coming. Kimi is coming.
He
And
is.
that's the reason I don't want to make the offer or say that Albon might take the seat, because I genuinely think that what Albon needs is stability. Albon needs a place where he can sign a contract and be there for the next 5 years. That's why I think the Red Bull seat works out for him, because he already has an established relationship with them. I think it might work out this time, because he's gone away from the sport. He had some time away. He came back. He's been competitive. He knows how to develop a car and how to drive a car in different settings and setups. It might just be time to bring him back home to Red Bull and see how he does there.
It just might be. It just might be there. We'll see. We'll see. Ultimately, it is Toto's choice in what he ends up doing. But we do know one thing: Kimi is coming.
Kimi
Kimi
is
is
coming.
coming. That
Kimi is
is
coming. Undeniable. And it's undeniable. That boy is coming, and he is coming, and that's all we can say. He is coming.
yeah. He is there.
We'd
Obviously.
say, as we'd say, Siyabangena. It means we are entering. That's how the direct translation is: we are entering.
Right,
Siyabang, Siyabangena. He is coming. He is coming.
right. Stroll. We know Stroll is he's at the mountain still. Gasly Ocon. Um. Yeah, I don't know. This French management is their baguettes, so they're probably gonna stick the same, right?
They'll either stick the same, or they'll replace Ocon with
Was it
Carlos
development?
Sainz.
I
No,
don't.
Carlos.
Nah, I don't know.
I think
I
I
don't
don't
trust.
I don't know, but I think it wouldn't be the worst move,
Oh,
because it's if excuse me, if I'm Alpine, I want someone that can win races.
definitely.
And yes, Pierre's won, yes, Ocon has won, but Carlos Sainz is a guy that can actually take the team forward. And we've seen him do it before. His last time at Renault, he helped take the team forward. When he was at McLaren, he helped take the team forward. He's helped take Ferrari forward. I think it would be a very smart move from their perspective to bring him in on a 2-year deal until until Audi are in the sport, or at least on a 1 year or a 1+1 deal.
I
There is big potential there. I think
uh,
it for Carlos it might be a difficult decision, but depending on how things go, he might take that Alpine seat. But we could also see him in the Williams.
look. I wouldn't wish either of those options on my worst enemy. I'm gonna be real, especially like
I
think
think
about
I think Williams
Williams
are
is
going in
better.
the right direction.
Look,
Williams are going in the right direction.
yeah, Williams is a better choice than Alpine. I'm gonna be real with you, right?
I can agree. Yes, simply because of the team principle and the management. That's really what it comes down to.
Like
It really does.
I cannot trust. I cannot trust Alpine. They have shown me to never trust them. So I see either Carlos sit out a year and then
Yeah.
come back with Audi, or he takes up that Red Bull seat, right? Let's keep moving on though. Sargent out of the sport, and we put in the Williams Academy driver. Like
I think
that's
Sargent going out and bringing in a um, Frederick Vesti would be the smartest decision they could make. I'm actually really surprised they didn't do that already, because Frederick Vesti was the runner-up in F2. He's a really competitive driver. He's a really quick driver. He's done more in his career than Sargent has,
mm,
and deserves the seats in F1 in my opinion. So Logan Sargent out, Frederick Vesti in is my hope for the 2025 season.
yeah.
Um, if we look at Toro Rosso, because that's what we're calling them,
Yeah.
um, I don't know if Yuki is going to stay in the sport because, man, I'm
I,
gonna be honest with you. I'm gonna be honest with you, man.
yeah.
Liam Lawson should be there.
I'm with you. I'm with you on that, right? And I think that's more up to this year, right?
Yeah, I
Be-
think it depends on how Yuki performs this season. That will
and
dictate what happens in the future. But the thing is that it's a tough call. It's a tough call because I really like Liam Lawson,
I
and him and Danny Ricciardo together might just be the most interesting
duo.
combination. The
It,
two, the two, well, the Aussie and the Kiwi.
yeah, right. I hear you. I'm still team Sonoda. I
I
only
love
think
Yuki.
the only
I
thing I
love
need
Yuki.
from Yuki, right, and this is why I love that Danny came back, right, was that Danny brought that oh shit moment to Yuki, right? Because Yuki was riding his coattails for way too long last season. He was cruising by, just vibing. Like he got those consistent 11th places, and it was looking good. And then he just got to chill, sit back, not really care much else, right? Because the car development went sideways and it went shit. And when Danny hopped into the car, and this was just like, bam, this car has performance. Yuki was in that oh shit moment. I actually gotta
Yep,
like drive the car now.
yep, yep.
Otherwise, I'm going to be exposed for not doing my job. And now, with Danny versus Yuki this year, it's really going to prove to Red Bull and Yuki that does he deserve to stay in the sport? Because if
Yeah,
he's not performing up to par and he's getting destroyed by Danny Rick every weekend, Liam is the clear choice. And I'm a Yuki fan. I want him to be in the sport, but I mean, Liam was birthed by fire.
yes.
So
He was baptized in it. Like,
you gotta
like
give
you
that
know,
drive,
you
but
know that
like
you know that Bane meme of the
yeah,
"you merely adopted the dark." I
was
was born in it. That's
exactly.
Liam Lawson, bruh. He was born in it, bruh.
And so it's just gonna be a thing of it's a clear no brainer. Like the man's in his debut race didn't score points, but the next race he scored points, and not only that, he scored more points than Yuki did in one single race. Yuki obviously scored more points in totality, but in a single
Yuki had
race,
so many more races. He had so many more races.
to score points, and
So many
he did
more
it.
races. I mean, look, Liam Lawson he's that dark horse. He's that dark horse that you got to look at and go, you know, him and Daniel Ricciardo would be an interesting pairing because they both seem like such chilled, down to earth, calm people.
Yeah,
Yuki Tsunoda is known for an outburst. He's known for that outburst. And look, I love the passion, but sometimes you're just like, okay, dude, you need to relax because you were in the wrong, or
you're doing
you're
too much.
doing too much, or so it's a little bit, it's a complex situation for Yuki. So this season is going to be a make or break moment for him, because if he doesn't, it's not looking good, because we know Red Bull are very, very comfortable with making a change mid-season. So he's got to be very careful, and he's got to try and be as close to Danny Ricciardo as possible. Otherwise, he might just find himself out in the cold.
Absolutely, right. It's a make or break season for Yuki. Right, on
Yep.
to the next two drivers. Well, actually to the last two, because Haas is gonna do the same thing. Is the Alpha drivers. This is where I see
No, no, no.
Science.
It is,
Sorry,
it is, it is stakekick dot
done.
cyber dot sauber.com.
/ Audi. I'm
Yes.
calling it Audi.
Yep. Yeah.
So at Audi, this is the next. This is the last place. If Sainz cannot get a Red Bull seat, cannot get a Aston Martin seat,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? This is the seat he should go to for the time being until he get and just stay there, because he'll get his like 5 year contract straight up,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
just get there. Audi will come in, reshape everything, follow his plans, and then he'll get the benefits from him being in Audi immediately. Is that he'll meet the personnel, create a relationship with the personnel there already, right?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like a lot of them would stay in the team already, and once he's got that relationship established with the guys at the factory and the team on the pit wall and the engineers, it's gonna make that transition from when Audi comes in, and they're gonna be like, "Yo, Carlos, what type of car are we building?" Carlos can be like, "Well, look, this is where we're gonna go with it," and then the engineers can have more faith in Carlos, as well as Carlos can have the faith in the engineers to build something that will be good, end up shaping it into the right direction, and overall, over a time period, I feel like it's the best option for short-term quick gains and goals for Carlos. If he wants to try kick it off the bucket list, is aim for that Red Bull seat of Perez, get in it, race for those 1 or 2 years, and then move over to Audi so that he can bring that Red Bull experience. Because that's the other part. Is like if he brings the Red Bull experience to Audi, it makes it even better for Audi, because Carlos has now raced for two, not one but two top tier teams. Actually, three. McLaren is a top tier team,
Yeah.
right?
I was about to, don't disrespect McLaren like that.
Right. He's raced for multiple top tier teams. He's going to bring this level of experience from these teams to Audi to help shape the different things that needs to be done, and how the processes and all those nonsenses needs to be done, right? That is that's just that, right? And then the last two drivers, Haas is just gonna
Well,
renew the.
before we move on, I do have a couple caveats. I don't think I see Carlos going to Red Bull. I think it's a little unrealistic. Um, I think they're more likely to go with Alex Albon than they are with Carlos Sainz.
Mm-hmm.
And then in terms of him going to Sauber, that's a good shout, because Andreas Seidel is the CEO of Sauber, and he's the guy that's heading up the whole project. And him and Carlos have already worked together at McLaren, so that is a really good shout. I think it's genuinely something that they should be looking at, and they should definitely want to bring in a driver like Carlos Sainz. because one thing he does do is he helps move cars and develop them going forward. He is, I think, a really good driver. So he's one of those people that they should definitely be looking at. And potentially him and a Valtteri Bottas, potentially him and a Teo Porcher would be a very interesting combination.
Ooh, I like that. I like that combination. Him and Theo
Mm,
would be
mm,
incredibly good because now you put a multiple race winner, right,
yeah,
with a new rookie who needs to learn the ropes in and out, and it just overall it sparks inspiration in my eye to hear
it
that.
sounds good, doesn't it? It
It
sounds
sounds
really good.
it sounds really good. Like, this is the point where it's like, why don't they make us strategists, bro? Like, shit, come on, I'll look at this shit and make some good team pairings
And
out here.
man, I could make some magic. We could make magic happen, Bear. We could really make magic happen.
We honestly could, right? Like, oh, like, yo, that is just that's genius that you came up with right there. I like that. I like that combination there. Still,
Thank
ultimately,
you.
I would love to still see Alonso Albon pairing. I'm a breathe it into existence. I would absolutely.
Look, we can try and try and try, but unless Lance Stroll decides that he's going to go play tennis, we're not going to see it. But it would be, we've said it before on this podcast and we'll say it again. Alex Albon being able to learn from Fernando Alonso would literally be game changing.
It
It
would
would
be.
be game changing.
Because like I just picture it, like in my head, I just see the generation, right? We had Alex, we had Charles, we had George, right? All three of them racing each other. I mean, Stroll was kind
Yep.
of there as well. I mean, yeah,
Yep.
but like, and then we have Max at the top there. You get those four drivers up against each other in like top tier teams. Oh, sorry. How can I? Please forgive me, guys.
You
Please
forgot
forgive.
Charles. You forgot Charles.
No, I mentioned Charles. I mentioned Charles.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
I forgot the most important boy, Lando. I honestly forgot. I am so sorry. I honestly forgot Lando.
Yeah.
The five
Yeah.
drivers, Lando. Like, think of that level of freaking brilliance of just like racing against each other, because like we've seen the banter they've had between each other multiple
Indeed.
times, and now
Indeed.
to see that banter off track and then them racing each other on track where they've got that level of respect. They've been racing each other for years. They know how each other drives, and it's just about the mental game that they play with each other to be like, can I fool you? Like, it's like that 2022 Jeddah race, right?
Oh man, still
Max
good.
versus
Still good.
Charles, and they
Still
both
good.
lock their
Still
freaking
good.
brakes up because they both want the DRS against each
Oh,
other, which was the most comical thing to ever see. But it was like,
yeah.
yeah,
But that's because they just know each other. They knew each other. It's like I know you. I can read you, my guy.
like it was. And the thing is, if you think about it, how fast of a reaction speed did they have to each other? It's
Oh
just like it's
man.
it's like in milliseconds where they were just like, okay, cool, both hit the brakes and they're fighting for it. Like, shit, okay, okay, I see
Um,
what you're doing. I see what you're doing, and then they move on immediately.
yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Well, let's move on to that last team. The
yeah.
team that we assume is probably going to do the same thing that they've done before, and like just like it was Magnussen and Grosjean, it's going to be Magnussen and Nico for the next foreseeable future because I don't know what direction they take it. I don't have advice for them. I don't have input. I don't know what they do. Like it's just it's one of those things where you just look at it and you go, yeah, okay.
Yeah, that is. I must agree with you, and I think you pretty much summed it up already, right there. There's nothing else. It's just gonna be Nico Magnussen getting a contract extension. That's what I
Yeah.
think. If there's something new that happens there, great. But after Haas got scarred with double rookies, I don't know. I don't know. I don't see any.
Look,
I don't see any
Ace,
passion.
yeah, a smart play would be to keep Nico and then bring in a rookie. But then who are you bringing in? Like Ollie Berman? That would be cool, but I don't know. I
I
love
wouldn't.
Ollie.
I
I
wouldn't.
think Ollie Berman's great, but I think that Haas is actually a damaging environment for rookies.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to put. I wouldn't want to put no rookie in that seat, bro.
Yeah,
I
I
wouldn't.
wouldn't. I wouldn't like because it's. I've said I just said it's a damaging environment for rookies. Like we see what it did to Schumacher. I don't think it's a particular place where you go and become a good driver, because it's just it's so underwhelming. There's a lot there that just don't that doesn't feel right. The thing is, Ollie Berman is one of their development drivers for next season, and if he goes on to win F2, which I think he is one of the main guys to compete for it, he most likely will end up taking K-Mag's seat. And the reality is that's it's not great for Ollie, but look, it's an F1 drive. It's genuinely one of those situations where if you're Ali Berman, you come in, you do your time at Haas. When Lewis retires, you jump into the Ferrari. That is genuinely Ollie Berman's path to potentially hopping into the Ferrari in the future.
I 100% agree with you right there. And ladies and gentlemen, this will end up being the conclusion for this week's episode. But don't be scared. We still will be having more episodes as more teams release their newest vehicles and the looks of their vehicles. We still got like on Valentine's Day. You may be a lonely single person, but at least you get to share it with Mercedes and McLaren. We get to see their liveries together right there. Well, you can also still join us on our Twitch channel, the late_breakers on Twitch, for the first race of the season on the first from the first of from the 1st of March. We will be we'll actually be streaming on the 2nd, the Saturday, for qualifying as well as the race. You can catch us there, and on YouTube you can still catch us here with the podcasts, where we'll be releasing and the next episodes for the whole season.
Indeed.
Yeah, that's all that I have for today, and we'll see you guys all on the next episode. Cheers.
Yes.